Chapter 19. If something seems too good to be true, it's probably trying to kill you. Niche rules for Changling. We stood outside the Bram Stoker's back door, breathing in sharp perfume of unfamiliar spices. The street was impression course in Chinese folklore. In the space of few breaths, I saw a troop of monkey spirits with long tails waving from back of their camouflage shorts. 3 doll-like Hugh Hessian and miniskirts and high-heeled boots. 5 blue demons, a pair of foo dogs, one red, one green, and countless tiny flying dragons like bright silk scarves. Red and gold signs advertise shops and service. Citral cloth by Chu Nu and the Chin Cha Grammar School for Young Supernaturals and Lee Organizing Services. The crowd thinned out and caught sight of a wide slate gray canal dotted with red sailed boats and glided bargains. The sky was blue, scarlet flags were flying, and everybody seemed to be shouting cheerfully. I turned to Changeling to see how she was handling the noise. Changeling was handling it just fine. Changeling was a different creature from Changeling, tagging along on another somebody else's adventure. What are we waiting for? She asked. We have to go this way. And she barged through a knee-high flock of Sheen, who wagged their white beards and scolded her in high old man voices. I followed, apologizing. I wasn't in a hurry to leave Chinatown. Countless stalls spilled their piles of cabbages and magic fish and amulets and embroidered slippers and bolts of violently colored silk into the street. A tray of tiny jewel bright frogs caught my eye. I bent over them, enchanted. A jade green one winked a ruby eye at me. Changeling jigged impatiently. We have to go, she announced. Just a sec. I want to see this frog, I said, but she kept bugging me until I gave in. We walked along the canal to a red and gold bridge, which we crossed at a trot. Changeling paused to check a sign, then turned down a side street. The side street was in anything nosier and more jam-packed than Canal. But Changeling wasn't fazed. She wore through the Chinese folk like a needle, trailing me thread-like behind her. The street branched and branched again. To my relief, the crowd thinned, then vanished completely. Changeling didn't even seem to notice, but marched purposefully on, turning right and left, seemingly at random, but heading always southward, deeper into the financial maze. I wasn't liking the financial maze much. To me, it felt like an antique park. Dusty, silent, empty, hard. Its gray buildings loomed over us like sheer, many-windowed cliffs. I was almost happy to see Will-o'-the-Wisp flickering mistfully at the mouth of the alley. In the world of silence and stone, it was at least familiar. Of course, if you look at a Will-o'-the-Wisp, it thinks you're going to follow it. The thing I knew, this one had darted out of the alley and started dancing around our heads. Changeling batted at it irritably. This just attached more will-o'-wisps, and soon we were at the center of a misty, bright dandelion. Ignore them, Changeling, I begged. They're just trying to get you to follow them. They can't hurt us as long as we know where we're going. Changeling swung her fist at one particularly persistent wisp. I do not know where I'm going. Wait, sorry. I do know where I'm going, Changeling said angrily. This is worse. We turn right on Lafayette across the park and then go to the Pearl. Left on Pearl. Changeling looked after them, puzzled. I knew you weren't lost, I said. Now they know. Now they know it too. Let's go. We tramped down Worth Street, Changeling on the lookout for Lafayette, me on the lookout for the possible dangers. Where were the giants and worms and goblins Ashes had told me about? Were they watching us from the blank windows, finding a heavy stone to drop on our heads? Why was everything quiet? When we turned into the Pearl Street, I thought it was empty too. Then a shower of golden light dazzled my eyes, and a voice soothed my ears like falling water. Children, whiter wander you. The voice belonged to a huge golden bird perched on the lamp post. Its song was originally bird song as the sun is to a candle flame. Are you lost? It quarreled. I can bring you safely home. Do you want gold? I can give you endless treasure. Friends? I can make you a beautiful and charming. Fame? I can put your name in every mouth in New York. Only follow me. Changeling drifted nearer. As I hesitated, the bird promised me my heart's desire. It would lead me to Central Park, fix things with the lady, give me an invitation to a changeling party, and answer to all my questions. All I had to do was follow it. I wanted to go wherever it led me. I really did. But a dry voice in my head that sounded a lot like Curator kept telling me that quests don't have shortcuts. Don't listen, Changeling, I gasped. I think it's like a will-o'-wisp. Stay the streets again, and maybe it will go away. I might as well have saved my breath. The bird took to the air in a scatter of light like the last rays of sunset, and Changeling took off after it, or she would have if I hadn't attached myself to her. She whipped around, trying to make me let go without tearing her beloved jacket. I hung on like a burr. The bird fluttered around our heads, showering us with impossible promises. Out of nowhere, a whistle blew, incredible loud and incredible harsh. Three things happened at once. I let go of the jacket and covered my ears. The bird disappeared like soap bubble bursting, and Changeling let out the saddest, loudest, most desperate wail I've ever heard. I knew how she felt, but I couldn't help thinking that this was not a good time to call attention to ourselves. We're on a pearl, Changeling, I said as calmly as I could. Do you remember what comes after pearl? She stood in the middle of the street, repeating the directions to herself, and the giant walked into us. It was only a little giant, as giants go, just big enough to see into the second-story window, not big enough to squash us flat. He knocked us over and stood still, turning his head this way and that. Changeling, not surprisingly, went totally to pieces. She screamed and frailed and screamed some more. The giant tilted his head towards her, and I saw his eyes flash bright and gold like polished coins. A shiver went through me, more horror than fright. Clutching Changeling by the collar, I hauled her upright and pushed her flat against the wall. "Shut up," I hissed. "I know you're freaked, but you have to be quiet. I think the giant's blind and he's not deaf." She tried. She really tried. She managed to turn down her screaming to a strangled moaning, which the giant would have heard just fine if the street had stayed quiet and empty, but it didn't. All at once, Kanabs, demons, worms, giants, and goblins started pouring out of the buildings into the narrow street, filling it with the confused thunder of heavy feet. Our giant shook his head and shambled away. "We've got to get out of here, Changeling," I muttered. "What's the next street?" She shook her head, eyes squeezed shut. "Let's see. It's north till Lafayette. Left on Lafayette. Left on Pearl. Or was it south to Lafayette?" "You have it all wrong," Changeling said irritably. "We turn right on Lafayette, cross the park, and turn left Pearl, follow Pearl down past Floatin, John, and Platt to Maiden Lane, then left." I grinned. "You're right. Let's get going." I soon realized that the Wall Street folk were as gold blind as the giant, but it didn't make me feel any better. We slid down to the side of the street, hugging the wall, hoping nobody bumped into us. By the time we finally made it to the Maiden Lane, I'd been frightened so long I was feeling sick. I don't know how Changeling was feeling. Just as there was no pearls on Pearl Street, there were no maidens on Maiden Lane, only a couple of scurry kobolds and 2 rows of grim stone towers that reminded me of the building where the witch had stuck the hippie chick. I wondered if we were going to have to climb up Fleet's hair to get her apartment. I hoped not. I don't mind heights so much, but I hate climbing ropes. I don't know how Changeling knew which building was the right one. Maybe there were signs that only fairy eyes could see. In any case, she marched up to the wall that looked like every other wall and poked it firmly with her finger. After a moment, the wall asked who we were and what we wanted. For some reason, this was too much for Changeling and retreated into her jacket. "We're changelings," I told the wall, speaking loudly and clearly. "We're looking for you, and I think, is your name Fleet? If it is, please let us in. Honey sent us." There was a pause, and then the voice said, "How do I know you're not broker?" "A what?" "Never mind. Honey sent you? Straight up." Cross my heart and hope to die. "That's easy for you to say. Brokers don't have hearts." I looked up and down the Maiden Lane. The light was fading and the wind was picking up. A fat worm waddled past a stumpy legs. "You have to help us," I said. "We're on a quest, and we're changelings, just like you. Please." This last came out sounding a lot panicked than I would have liked. Okay, the voice resigned. "Hold on and I'll buzz you in." Later, Fleet and I got to be friends, but when I first met her, I didn't like her. If changelings looked too much like me, Fleet looked too different. She was tall and slender, with polished feminine skin and black hair and 1,000 little braids down her back like a statue of Egyptian princess. Usually I don't care that I'm kind of ordinary. Folk are supposed to be incredibly beautiful unless they're incredibly ugly. But Fleet was only a mortal like me. Plus she kept shooting sideways glances at Changeling, like she couldn't believe she was real, and totally refused to take us to the Dragon of Wall Street. "Are you nuts? The dragon's dangerous. When he chews you up, there's not enough left to spit out. My advice? Go home and forget about it." I could feel myself getting red and hot. Go home? Forget about it? I wish. The whole reason I'm here at all is that I can't go home until I'm completed my quest for dragon scales. The dragon scales? Fleet shrieked so loud, and Changeling flinched. You're planning to steal dragon scales? You haven't got a chance. It got hotter. Why not? I've already scored the magical uh, ma- magnifying mirror of the Mermaid Queen and the pair of tickets to Peter Pan. Believe me, the producer of Broadway is plenty dangerous to deal with. Fleet wasn't impressed. Maybe you should quit while you're ahead. New York's a big city. There are plenty of other places to live. I wasn't so sure what were my choices. The financial maze? No way. Broadway? No green things or sunshine. Battery Park? Where would I sleep? And Castles Clinton with the ghosts? Chinatown was very cool, but not exactly homey. I could just imagine living in Metropolitan Museum if the curator let me. And there were places in New York I haven't seen yet. The Upper West Side, Midtown, the Village, Chelsea. But I wasn't willing to bet that none of them had Nixies or corn spirits or Astrus or the water rat. I didn't think I could bear it if I couldn't see Astrus again. And what about Puka, stuck in the museum being good until I got back? What about Changeling? No, I said. Central Park is home, and I'm not ready to leave it yet. Besides, I've promised writing on this. You shouldn't promise that you can't deliver, Fleet said. You don't see me promising to take you to the dragon, do you? Are you telling me you don't know how to find the dragon? Fleet looked insulted. Of course I know how to find him. Blindfolded. It's just that I know better. We were sitting in the living room on Fleet's apartment. Although it was smaller than my bedroom, it had a lot more furniture crammed into it. A round table with 4 chairs, a white sofa with a little table next to it, an easy chair, and a big bookcase stuffed with books. Drawings of giants and dragons and griffins and dwarfs were thumbtacked all over the wall. Every flat surface was a jumble of papers and pencils and cups, with mold growing into the bottoms. Fleet was hunched up in the easy chair, fiddling nervously with her braids. Why are you so scared? I asked. If not like he'll eat you or it's not like he'll eat you or something. Aren't you under his protection? I'm under his protection, all right. Fleet's pretty mouth drooped. Way under. You are looking at one of the dragon's executive assistants in training. What's that? The dragon's very busy. He needs someone to keep folk from interrupting him and to make coffee and appointments and things like that. He always has at least 3 maidens on hand, working in shifts. When one of them retires, one of us gets promoted. I wondered what happened to retired executive assistants and decided I didn't really want to know. And you're not looking forward to the promotion. Fleet laughed. You could put it in that way. It's all finance and systems, keeping everything neat or organized, and systems and keeping everything neat and organized. In other words, totally not me. I'm an artist, really. You are obviously not an organized person, Changeling said from the corner. Your books are out of order. I haven't even known she was listening as soon as we got upstairs. She had gone to sit cross-legged in front of the bookcase. Apparently she counted enough books to calm herself. I like him that way, Fleet wailed. See? It's hopeless. Sooner or later, I'll do something really dumb and the dragon will eat me. And that will be that. Her velvety brown eyes filled with tears. She blotted them with her sleeve before they could spill over. I'm miserable, but I'm not miserable enough to want to be eaten. I knew exactly what she meant. Suddenly, it didn't matter so much how beautiful she was. I understand, I said. And when Fleet looked doubtful, no, really, I do. The folk don't care whether we're happy or not. They only care if we follow their stupid rules, and if we don't, whammo, we're folk food, and we don't even know why. It's not fair. You said it, sister. Fleet smiled at me. Beautiful as fairy tale princess. Princess? Hero? I had an idea. Hey, Fleet, I said slowly. How about in exchange for you leading us to a dragon, we rescue you from him? Say what? We rescue you. You know, like the old stories about knights and damsels in distress. What do you say? Is it a deal? And how are you going to do that? Fleet asked sarcastically. You got a dragon's killing sword in the satchel of yours? No, I said. It's not that kind of quest. Besides, you can't go around killing geniuses. What do you have in mind then? I'll come with something. I've done it before. Besides, I have a magical magnifying mirror of the Mermaid Queen, and Changling knows how to work it. Fleet gave an unhappy laugh. Which leaves us with what? A kid with a trick makeup mirror and a fairy double against a genius of unmanageable size and power, guarded by one of the best security systems in New York. Between even a country girl like you can do the math on that one. We've got this far, haven't we? What are the odds against that? I hadn't meant it to be a real question, but Changeling answered it anyway. There is a insignificant data and calculate the odds, but it is safe to say that they would be very, very high. Fleet shrugged. Very funny, okay? Folkless from Central Park. What do you know about dragons? The real answer was not enough, but I was getting used to working with what I had. They have all got a vulnerable spot, I said. If we could find out what the Dragon of Wall Street is, it would give us something to bargain with. Oh, I can tell you that, Fleet said gloomily. The Dragons of Wall Mist is wait. The Dragon of Wall Street is blind. Not that it slows him down any. Too easy, I shook my head. That can't be it. Then there's got to be something else. Something he's hiding. I'm sure Changeling and I could figure it out. If we can see him. I put my hand on Fleet's arm. Please, Fleet, take us to the dragon. It'll turn out fine, you'll see. Fleet got up and paced between the window and the back wall a couple of times, dodging cast-off shoes and piles of papers. She looked at Changeling quietly, rearranging her books in alphabetical order, and she looked at me. Okay, she said, it's a deal. I'll take you to see the dragon, but you guys have got to get me out of here. Wall Street is no place for an artist.